So we're gonna start with American Airlines Air Tariff definition, okay? So this one is already posted on Blackboard, the document, the whole document, okay, for your reference. But for today's class, what I suggest you do is to take notes, either on a paper or on your PowerPoint, okay? It's very important. So we start with the definition because in order to be able to understand the tariff, we need to understand the definition. So there are 6 definitions we're going to cover today. Those are the major ones. We start with open jaw. So what is definition of open jaw? This one is not new. You learned it before, okay? We learned a single open jaw, SOJ and DOJ, double open jaw, right? So means travel with essentially round-trip nature. It's you go there, you come back, right? It doesn't actually come back to the same place or go to the same destination. Original single open jaw. The outbound point of departure and the inbound point of arrival are not the same. Okay, so that's what they're talking about. Is basically you travel from Ottawa to Venice, and Venice coming back to where? To Montreal, right? So that's original single open jaw, and then turn around single open jaw. Okay, like this. Ottawa to Venice, then you're coming back from where? From Florence back to Ottawa. So both of them are single open jaw, okay? And also we talk about what? Double open jaw, right? Double open jaw will be what? So for example, single open jaw will, double open jaw will be Ottawa to Paris, then we come back from London back to Montreal. So this will be double open jaw, okay? So this open jaw is not that difficult. The most important thing is when you look at the fare, how do you find the open jaw fare? Is the fare, remember, when it's an international one, it's all round trip based, right? So when you do dollar day, it gives you the round trip fare. And when you do the single open jaw or double open jaw, you need to do is to be charged half of the applicable round trip fare for each leg of open jaw. So it's like the workshop we did last class. Remember I gave you the 1500 R, 1200 R. Whenever it's R, it's round trip fare, right? So if you only use half of it, you need to do, for example, this is 1200 R round trip. If you only use half, divide by 2, 600 for Ottawa to Paris. And the same thing, Montreal to London may be 1400 R round trip, but you only use half of it, so 1400 divided by 2 will be 700. And you combine them together, so this one is 1300. Okay, so that's how this works. And this one is important. When the fare is different fares combined together, then the most restrictive rule applies. Whichever is more restrictive, then applies for the whole itinerary. We're going to talk about more later, okay? So that's open jaw. This one is kind of review. And combination. Combination, which means rather than perfect round trip, outbound and inbound exactly the same, now it's basically a combination of different fares in one itinerary. So for example, when 2 or more one-way or round trip or half round trip fares are used or shown separately in a fare calculation, that is combination. For example, look at this one. This is a circle trip, right? A to B, B to C, C to A, okay? So this one is basically 3 half of the round trip add together, right? So for example, A to B, then I use what? Half of the A to B round trip plus half of the B to C round trip plus half of the C to A round trip. Add them together to get a circle trip, okay? And this one will be what? Open jaw, isn't it? Because this is R1. So all you need to do, A fly to B, and B to C is R1, then C to A. So for this one, how does this work? Half of the round trip for A to B plus half of the round trip from where? C to A. Because B to C, there's no flight. so you don't add it. So this is a 3 half round trip, this is 2 half round trip. And the same rule applies. When there's different rules combined, different fares combined together, the most restrictive rule applies for 1, 2, 3. Any one of them, the most restrictive one applies. Okay? So that's a combination. And the rebooking, this one means, again, look carefully. This is what we're talking about rebooking. We're not talking about reticketing, reissuing. So this means change in date, time of reservation. Please highlight reservation, okay? Or other changes not requiring ticket issuance. So guess what? This is what you have been doing from level 1, CR1, CR2, CR3 all the time. Because have you ever issued ticket? Never, right? So everything you have done is all based on the reservation. So you make reservation and you change whatever date, whatever time, whatever booking code. It's called rebooking. You just change reservation. You never issue ticket. So that's rebooking, right? Whenever there's rebooking, is there any penalty involved? Is there any penalty from the airline? No, there's never, because before the ticket is issued, there's no penalty whatsoever, right? Okay? Because the clients haven't even paid, right? Okay, so there's no penalty. And reissue, that'll be a different story, right? This one is talking about the ticket has been issued before. Now, for some reason, the ticket has to be reissued. So, any change to the validated ticket, when they're talking about validated, which means the ticket has been paid, has been issued, requiring a replacement ticket to be issued, including but not limited to the following. Following things are the reasons why we need to reissue the ticket. Number 1, upgrade. The fare from L class to Y class, okay, pays more. And downgrade, Y class to L class. Additional coupon. What does this mean is that additional coupon, which means, what does it mean, additional coupon? You basically fly more. Used to be Ottawa, London back to Ottawa. Now you say, I'm going to come back London to Ottawa and Ottawa to Toronto. So you add another segment. So that's additional coupon and increase in fare. The fare has changed. Okay, so that's reissue. All these ones, and because you add additional coupon, then the fare has changed. So you need to reissue the ticket. Now, my question is, guys, listen. What if after I issue the ticket, and then 10 days later I check the fare? Wow, I paid $500, now it's $700. Do I have to go back to see my agent and say, oh, this fare has gone up, I'll pay extra $200? Right? Of course not, right? Well, now, too bad so sad, so I've already paid, so I don't pay extra. Because once a ticket is issued, when the fare goes up, has nothing to do with you. But listen, that's because the ticket has issued. What if you are making reservation and then your fare has gone up? Now what's going to happen? Again, too bad so sad, you have to pay what? The extra, because your ticket hasn't been issued yet, right? So that's a reissue, talking about once the ticket has been issued, for some change, you need to issue it again. And reroute, okay? So this one means a change of routing. Your original itinerary from A to B, B to C, C to A. Now you need to change. You don't want to go to B anymore. You want to go A to C, C to A. So change of routing, change of fare, okay? The class of service change, and a change of carrier. I don't want to fly with Air Canada anymore, or class of service. I don't want to fly in economy, I go premium economy. Flight or date, okay guys? Look at this. Even you change the flight number, it means rerouting. Okay, it means reroute because it's the same thing, Ottawa to Toronto. Original ticket is 8 o'clock in the morning, now you change it to what? 10 o'clock. Some students say, well, it's the same routing, I just changed 2 hours later. No, yes, it is the same itinerary, but because you change the time, you still have to, it's called rerouting. Okay? which means original, you have to change it. Reissue the ticket, okay? That's rerouting. And next one is transatlantic. So this definition you're gonna hear it a lot, okay? Especially this term. Means the portion of travel covered by a single flight coupon. Very important. Single flight coupon means single flight segment from the point of departure in area number 1, which is North America. So you travel from North America to the point of arrival in area 2 or area 3 and vice versa. Okay, vice versa. So this one is, when you're talking about when you travel most of the time, is from area 1 to area 2. Then you cross Atlantic. So that flight segment, what do we call? We call it transatlantic. Okay, transatlantic. Same thing, when you come back from where? Let's choose one. From Florence back to Toronto. Florence back to Toronto, same thing. You have to cross Atlantic. So that's transatlantic. Next one, trans-Pacific. This one, the example I didn't use a lot, means a portion of travel covered by a single flight coupon from area 1 to area 3, and vice versa. When it's area 1 to area 3, North America to Asia, right? So, for example, from Toronto to where? From Toronto to Asia, which city? Japan, Tokyo, or to Osaka, to Singapore, right? Anything from area 1 to area 3, then this one fly through a Pacific, then it's called trans-Pacific, okay? So before I continue, and we talk about transatlantic, trans-Pacific, there's another one. It covers both. It's called what? Trans what? Ocean. Let's go back to the first page. It's called transoceanic. Okay, this one. It means as long as you cross ocean, not necessarily Atlantic or Pacific. As long as your flight cross ocean, we call it transoceanic. Okay. So those are the definition, okay? Because in order to read the tariff, we have to understand this definition. Now we're gonna come to the tariff. When we talk about airfare tariff, have you used airfare tariff for flight and fares? No, Sarah, no, you don't use airfare tariff anymore. Airfare tariff, which means the fare, the book, and the rules for the airline. So this one, every single airline has their own airfare tariff, okay? The one we use is American Airline. Some students say, why don't you use Air Canada? Because Air Canada, the one they have, they don't publish it. Whereas American Airline, they publish on the website, which is PDF file, so it's easier for me to download, to show it to you. But having said that, most of the airlines, they use the same language, okay? The fare is different, but the idea is the same. So, American Airlines airfare tariff falls on, we started with a daytime application. Last class, we talked about the fare basis code. We talked about X means what? Midweek, W means weekend. So, that's what they call, unless otherwise specified, midweek fares are valid for travel Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, okay? So this one, listen, only applies to American Airline. And also, read this carefully, unless otherwise specified. What does it mean is that each fare, individual fare, they might have their own special requirement. Then, but if it doesn't mention that, any American Airline fare, X means Monday to Thursday. That's what it means. But if it's a special fare, they say, oh, Thursday is weekend, then they will specify. That's why they say, unless otherwise specified in the rule. And otherwise, so weekend will be, if it's nothing special, it's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay? So here, this is what I'm gonna pay a lot of attention. the date of travel on the transatlantic and transpacific flight segment shall determine the day of week. This is so important. Most of students, when they think about it, okay, so they say, okay, I want to save money. So how do we save money? Travel on weekday rather than weekend, right? So this is an itinerary. I'll give you one example. Okay, so this itinerary, Ottawa, Chicago, Chicago, Tokyo, round trip, okay? So you are making what? Connection in Chicago, right? And inbound connection as well. So some students say, okay, I want to save money. So when they say, I want to save money, they say, my travel date. So which day is cheaper according to the rule? Weekday. Weekday means Monday to Thursday. So they say, okay, I travel Monday to Thursday from Ottawa. As long as I don't leave Ottawa on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay? And here, some students say, I only care about this one, outbound. How about inbound? Does inbound make a difference? Does inbound make a difference? The inbound make a difference as well. Because when they charge the fare, weekday, weekend, they look at the both outbound and inbound. So in order to save money, you make sure both your outbound and inbound flight are traveling on what? Weekday. Okay, so that's what we're saying. So now, in order to save money, here, you want to make sure it's Monday to Thursday as well. Okay? So most students will think about this. This is correct. But look at one exception. Guys, look at this. What if my flight, I want to do stopover in Chicago. I want to do stopover in Chicago. And then some students say, well, it's the same route. It's just rather than connection or stopover. I still do the same thing. I make sure my Ottawa flight is leaving Monday to Thursday. Is that right here? According to the rule. So look at the rule. The date of travel on the transatlantic or transpacific flight determine the day of the week. So for this one, does this date determine the weekday, weekend?
No.
It doesn't. Which segment determines? This segment and this segment, right? So for this case, because it used to be connection, it doesn't make a difference because it's the same day, right? But now, because it makes stopover, so now you have to, does this make a difference for the fare from Ottawa to Chicago? It doesn't, because this one is not transatlantic or transpacific. So which one makes a difference? You have to make sure this one is Monday to Thursday, and which one? Monday to Thursday. Tokyo to what? Chicago. Make sense? So the key word is what determines weekday, weekend. It's not the departure date. It's transatlantic and transpacific flight segment. That determines the weekday, weekend. And also important, both outbound and inbound. Not just outbound, okay? In order to save money, you make sure your outbound and inbound, both transatlantic, transpacific segment are on weekday, so it's save money. Okay? So that's weekday, weekend. Next one is seasonality. Seasonality, we talk about the fare basis code. We have a high season, low season, shoulder season. We have three, right? High shoulder, low shoulder, and mid shoulder. And so for seasonality, this is important. Some students say, how do I save money? Well, one way, save money by changing from weekend to weekday, right? That's good. You maybe save $50, $100, right? But that doesn't save you a lot. In order to save lots of money, this is you want to play with seasonality, because high season and low season and shoulder season, the difference can be huge. That will save you more money. Okay? So seasonality. Fares apply all year except when designated as seasonal seasons shown therein. Which means if the fare itself doesn't say it's a season application, then applies to all year. But most of the Apex fare has seasonality. Okay? Here, you see the one I highlight, make sure you highlight it, understand. The date of commence of the all-bound transoceanic segment shall determine the season fare to be charged round trip. What does this mean is, listen, there's only one season for the whole itinerary. It's not like outbound high season, inbound low season. No, there's no such a thing. There's only one seasonality for the whole itinerary. The airlines only cares about your outbound flight. They don't care when do you come back. You come back on slow season, you come back high season, I don't care. I only care outbound, which season do you travel. Then I charge for the seasonality for the whole itinerary. So some students say, it's not fair. Outbound I'm trying high season, and inbound I'm trying low season. You should charge me half high, half low. No, unfortunately that's not how it works. It all depends on outbound. And again, transoceanic. When we talk about transoceanic, we're talking about transatlantic and transpacific. So now the same thing. Give you the same itinerary. Here, it used to be same thing. Out of Chicago, Tokyo, and round trip, both connections. So now, in order to save your clients money, you want to travel on what season? Low season, right? So, in order to travel on low season, which date you want to make sure falls into the low season period? Which date? Which segment? Which flight coupon segment? ORD to Chicago to Tokyo. This is the only segment decides the seasonality. Has nothing to do with here. No, has nothing to do with here. Nothing. Inbound has nothing to do with. Only outbound transoceanic. So you make sure this date falls into low season, or as low as can be possible. Okay, make sense? Okay, so this one, and if its connection, it happens to be these two dates are the same, right? But if it's a stopover, be very careful. Many students automatically think outbound. So I look at this date. No, has nothing to do with this date. You must look at the transoceanic coupon flight segment. Okay, so that's seasonality. So our job, why do we read so carefully about this? It's all about saving money for your client. Okay, how to save? Because your clients have no idea about the seasonality, about the weekday, weekend. Maybe they know, but they do not know which day is weekday, which day is weekend, which day is high season, which day is low season. But we know. How do we find it out? How do we find it out? Where do we find it out? $D. We find $D, and then we go to $V, and then we find it out. Okay? So that's seasonality. These are the two things you can save money for your client. Number one, changing seasonality. Okay? Make sure your clients travel on the low season, as low as possible. Sometimes you can't do anything because they won't travel in the summer, right? You try to. And this one will save big money. Another one, save a little bit money, is by traveling on weekday. Okay? So, remember this one, only outbound. Inbound doesn't care. Advanced reservation and ticketing. So this one, all the fares have this, most of the fares. So reservation, if no provision are included in the individual fare rule, reservation may be made any time prior to departure. What does this mean is that this one applies to the full fare. When it's full fare, if I want to travel, I pay big money, I want to travel tomorrow, when do I have to issue the ticket or make reservation? Anytime. I can even go to the airport and pay right there, as long as before the flight departure time. I'm okay, right? But that's really why they said, if no provisions are included in the individual fare rule, which means if the individual fare rule doesn't say anything about advance reservation, you can make any time. Most of the Apex fare, they do have the reservation, advance purchase. So, and the same thing for the reservation requirement, number of days prior to the date of commence of travel. So this one is talking about how do you count it. So for example, this fare, they said you need 7 days before departure to make reservation. So when we talk about 7 days before, which segment are we talking about? Are we talking about transatlantic? No, for now, we are talking about what? Commence of the travel. Where do you start? When do you start the travel? Okay, not transatlantic anymore. From point of origin. Must be confirmed. The actual date of departure is not included. Okay, so this date is not included when you count 7 days. So now, guys, let's do a calculation. For example, my travel date is December 18th. Okay? My actual travel date December 18th. So now I want to get the fare. The fare says you need 7 days before departure to make reservation. So what is the last day I have to make reservation? What's the last day to make reservation? December 11th. This is the easiest way to do is just to do what? Minus 7. That's it. So if you use your fingers, your hands to count, it's exactly the same thing. Look how I count. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. How many days? 7 days. Do I count departure day? I don't. So that's exactly minus 7, December 11th. Okay? The easiest way to do that. But sometimes it sucks is that departure day, December 5th. This way, unfortunately, you can't do minus. I wish I can, but you can't. So what is the date now? It's still 7 days. So you have to count backwards, right? So December 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 30th, 29, 28. So which day you make reservation? 28th. Because you do not count the departure day, but you do count the what? Reservation day. Make sense? So you know what? In the test, I would not let you do this. This is too hard. I will just give you minus. It's easier, okay? It is way too hard. Like every time I think, oh, that's horrible to have to use this. Luckily, it's only 7. If it's 14 days, I have to use my. Oh. So that's for the reservation and ticketing, okay? The reservation. And payment of ticketing, exactly the same. How do you count this, okay? So when it's in terms of ticketing, unless it is said in the rule, you can issue the ticket anytime before departure. But trust me, most of the Apex fare, they will tell you 7 days before departure, 14 days before departure, okay? And how do you count it? The way you count it is the same thing. Do not count the actual date. Make sense? Okay. Minimum and maximum stay. This one in the CR, I ask you the question, what is minimum stay? So you all know it's it's a 1 day or first Sunday or whatever, 3 days, right? But actually it's not that easy. It's actually how do you count that 1 day? So let's read very carefully. First of all, minimum stay and maximum stay only applies to the round trip. When it's one way, does it make any sense? Minimum stay, maximum stay. It doesn't. You don't come back. So it's only round trip. Unless otherwise stated in the individual fare rule, return may begin at any time and the passenger will be allowed to travel within the normal validity of the ticket, which is 1 year. Well, you know what? This one, it applies to the full fare. Again, full fare has no restriction. You can stay as short as you want and as long as you want within 1 year. As short as you want means you can actually fly there and then get off the airplane and check in again, same airplane back. You can. If you pay wide fare. Okay, they don't care. But most of the fares we book is APAX fare. Most of the international APAX fare round trip has minimum maximum stay. But how do we count? Okay, it makes a difference. Applicable transatlantic, transpacific fares. Minimum stay means the amount of time required before the commencement of the last, guys, this is important, transoceanic sector. Calculated after the day of commencement of the first outbound transoceanic sector of the pricing unit. This is long, but I will just tell you, how do you count it? Again, you never just count the original departure date or original inbound departure date. You don't count that. You always count the date of what? Transoceanic sector date. That's how you count. Make sense? Okay. So I'll give you one example. Okay? So the same thing here. The same thing for this one, and it's a stopover. Let's see. And if this fare, they said minimum stay is 3 days. Minimum stay, okay? And look at this itinerary. This one is December 1st, December 3rd. Now the question will be, okay, they have stopover both. Okay, the question will be, and when is the first day they are allowed to come back? The first day they are allowed to come back. So what they want is that they don't want to stay in Tokyo forever. They just go there for the meeting, they come back for the holiday. So they want to stay as short as possible. But the fare says the minimum stay is 3 days. So how do you count? 3 days, December 4th. Is the first day you can come back? No. Like what I said, you always count the what? Transoceanic. So, you know you need to do +3, right? You need to do +3. But +3 from what? Not from this date. Because this is not transoceanic. Okay? You need to look at the transoceanic, which is December 3rd. Then you are allowed to do 3 days after. Then 3 days after +3, you get December what? 6th, isn't it? Make sense? So now you are allowed, you have to stay there until December 6th, then come back. Make sense? So do not say you only have to stay there 1 night. You arrive there and then you come back. No. The airlines are not stupid. Anybody knows why the airline don't want you to do that? Why the airline say you have to stay 3 days? Or first Sunday? Yes?
So they can capture the business travel there and back, the having to pay full fares and...
That's right. It's to do with business travel because, think about it, whenever the fare, they say minimum stay, it's all low end, the APAX fare for the leisure travelers. So what they say is that because leisure travelers, they don't care. They can stay that long, right? So they go lower fare. But business travelers, most of the time, they don't want to stay at the destination. They have been to Tokyo 100 times. They just want to get out there. Once the meeting is done, they want to get out there. But the airlines are not stupid. They say, okay, you don't pay for the ticket. Your company will pay whatever I charge them. So I put 3 days minimum stay. Then you can't say, I want only gone there for 1 day, I come back. Then, yes, some people say, I do want to come back. Then what's going to happen? Can you use this fare anymore? You can. But is there any fare? No minimum stay. Absolutely. You go to the full fare. There's no minimum stay. So which means if you want not to do the minimum stay, you go full fare. When you go full fare, the airline will get what? More money. So that the reason why for the minimum stay is to stop the business travelers to take advantage of that fare. Okay? So that's what it means. Make sense? Minimum stay. Again, did you find the trend for the international fare? Lots of things. It's all talking about transoceanic segment, right? Seasonality, okay? And weekday, weekend. And this one, minimum stay, okay? It's all about transoceanic segment. And the same thing is maximum stay. Maximum stay, same thing. We're talking about. So maximum stay is a little bit different. When it's normal fare, how long are you allowed to stay as a destination? 1 year. That's a ticket valid date, right? The ticket is not valid for 2 years. Maximum is 1 year. So which means if your client wants to stay as long as possible, the maximum stay is what? 1 year. Okay? But if some rules, APEX fare, the rules, the general rule, listen, the longer maximum stay, the more expensive. The shorter maximum stay, the cheaper. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? What I said? I gave you one example, right? So for example, there are lots of visitors to Canada. Visitors to Canada from all over the world, right? So for example, like my mother. So if my mother wants to come to see me, okay, then I will buy the ticket. And my mother, of course, she wants to stay with me as long as possible, right? Maybe I don't want to, but she wants to stay as long as possible with me. Okay, so if that's what she said, most people want to stay longer. Then, of course, if you want to do that, the airline will say what? You will pay more for that. And another reason why I think about it, if my mother stays for 6 months, when the airline will get all the money back? 6 months later, right? But if they say maximum stay is 1 month, what's going to happen is that within 1 month, the airline will get all the money in, right? Because all the travel will be finished. So that makes sense, is that the shorter maximum stay, the cheaper, okay? So if my mother comes here to see me and she said, oh, I want to stay a year with you. I said, Mom, it's too expensive. Let's stay for 3 months. It's like $600 cheaper, right? So that's one reason I tell my mama, 6 months too long. Let's put the 3 months. Try to stay with your mom for 6 months. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. And how do they count it? They are counting again here. Do you see the transoceanic, the wording? You don't, right? So let's look at what is the wording. The last continuous sector must commence by midnight of required number of days. You see here, now it's not about what? Transoceanic anymore. For this itinerary, same itinerary. Now I'm going to ask you, okay? So, this is the date, December 1st, Ottawa to Chicago. December 3rd, Chicago to Tokyo. And now I'm going to ask you, I want to stay there. The maximum stay is 3 months. Okay, the maximum stay is 3 months. Now I'm going to ask you, I want to stay there as long as possible. So tell me, what is the last day I have to come back? What is the last day I have to come back? According to this rule, American Airline rule. What's the date? What is the date I have to come back from Chicago, or from Tokyo? March 3rd? Is that right? It's not right. Second. Why is the second? Okay, so again, that's rule 1. We need to look at the rule. What does the rule says? The rule says the last continuous sector. Which one is the last continuous sector? Continuous, which means no stopover. No more stopover. So which segment is continuous?
Oh,
It's because there's stopover here, from here afterwards it's continuous. So which day you must travel? This date is March 3rd. Does it matter for Tokyo? Which day you travel from Tokyo to Chicago? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, okay? As long as this, from Chicago to Ottawa, you travel before March 3rd, you're good. Make sense? So the wording here is different. It's a last continuous sector, okay? This is an American airline. Different airlines can be different. The one I show you is that how to read it. How to read it, okay? How to apply the rule to the real scenario. Make sense? Okay. And stopovers, wow, this is fun. It's because most of the people, when they book from internet by themselves, or people have no knowledge about the airlines, how does it work? When they book an international trip, all they book is what? Ottawa to Venice, Venice back to Ottawa. So boring, okay, so boring. And they are basically paid the same amount of money and not taking advantage of a stopover. Whereas we are professionals, we should take advantage of this. So what does this mean? Is that stopovers will be permitted under the following condition. Before I talk about that, stopover is different with break the fare. When you study from CR1 of flight affairs, you learn about what? You break the fare, right? For example, you travel Ottawa to Vancouver, non-stop. Then what's going to happen? What fare do you pay? You pay Ottawa to Vancouver fare, right? But what if you say, I have a friend in Toronto. I'm going to travel Ottawa to Toronto, Toronto to Vancouver. I do a stopover in Toronto. So which fare are you going to be charged now, domestically? You're going to be charged Ottawa to Toronto, one fare, plus Toronto to what? Vancouver, another fare. Because you did stopover, they what? They break the fare, they charge you two. But for international one, when we talk about stopover, we are not breaking the fare. You are still being charged from Ottawa to Venice. Yes, you can stop over in Paris, but the fare will not be Ottawa to Paris one fare, Paris to Venice another fare. No, they won't do that. It's going to cost you more. You'll be allowed to do stopover, then they still charge you Ottawa to Vancouver fare, Venice fare. Make sense? So stopover must be arranged in advance. You can't just say you already issued the ticket, Ottawa to Venice, and then later on you say, oh, I want to do stopover. Well, if you want to do stopover, what's going to happen? You basically have to reissue the ticket, right? We talked about that. And stopover will be permitted at any point, which can be included in an itinerary, either by use of mileage system or the routing system. We talked about international fare, two types, right? Mileage-based fare and routing-based fare. So unless it says, unless such stopover is permitted by individual rule, which means for normal fare, you are allowed to stop over at any point. That's normal fare. But how often do we book normal fare? How often? I don't think so. How often do we book normal fare? Not really. Most of the time it's APAX fare. Then guess what? The APAX fare will have the individual rule. It will tell you exactly how many stopovers you're allowed and where are you allowed. So, except as otherwise, provide stopover will be free of charge. Again, they're talking about a full fare. Stopover, free of charge. But individual fare rule will specify are they free or not. All fare permitted stopover at point of turnaround and fare break point. Okay, so this one, understand, when I give you one example. This one. Ottawa, Chicago, Chicago to Norita, Norita, Chicago, Chicago to Ottawa. Look at this itinerary. How many stopovers? How many stopovers? There are only 1, 2. Okay? These are called stopovers. This one is actually point of turnaround. It's not considered as one stopover. Okay? So when they say you are allowed 2 stopovers, some students say, no, you have 3. Well, this one is not considered stopovers. Okay, this is point turnaround. So if you're allowed to, perfect. I do too. Okay, make sense? So that's a stopover. And for the purpose of stopover, it's talking about what? 24 hours. That's a definition of international stopover. What is stopover definition for domestic? How many hours above is considered stopover? 4, right? For international, it's 24. And if there's stopover charge, and if you have infant or children, their stopover charge will be discounted as well. That's what we're talking about. If the stopover charge for adult is 100, and infant, they only pay $10, 10%. Okay. So that's a stopover. And permitted combination. So that one we've already talked about it. It's basically, you see, this one is talking about, when we talk about combination, we're talking about different fares are combined together. It's not just Ottawa to London, London to Ottawa, one fare. It can be A to B, B to C, and C to A. Then you have 3 different fares combined together. Are you allowed? Yes, absolutely allowed. But you may be combined as long as all conditions of the fare are met, which means each fare has their own conditions. In order to combine them together, you must meet all the requirements. Okay? I take this away, end on end, is because we'll talk about end on end later on. So for now, we don't worry about end on end. Okay? So that one, number 1, they're talking about, remember I showed you this one, it's always 50-50%. Okay? So for example, if you have a 2 half round trip together, you have 2 half round trip fare add together. But what if you have this? Like what I showed you before. A to B, B to C, C to A. So how many half round trip you have? You have 3. 1, 2, 3. You basically add 3 half round trip together to get a full circle trip. Make sense? Okay. So that's a combination. And permitted combination. What kind of combination are permitted? 1 half of the fares designated as a midweek may be combined as 1 half fares as weekend. So this one tells you that when you combine together, they don't have to be the same. They don't have to be the same booking code. They don't even have to be what? The same fare system. It can be outbound is mileage-based fare, very expensive business class. Inbound, I'm going to what? Lowest economy. Is that possible? Is that possible? Absolutely. It can be, well, the business was so good, I booked business class. And then coming back, well, going down, we don't have enough money, so you go down to the lowest economy. It's possible. They can be combined. Okay? So, and also, weekday and weekend can be combined. Some students say, okay, I want to save money. Okay, you want to save money? So try to fly as possible as on midweek. But sometimes if you say, inbound, I have to come back for work on Monday, then what do you have to do? You have to travel weekend, right? But outbound, you can still do midweek. So it's just when we talk about combination, it's a flexible combination, okay? And this one is, I want to point out, there are lots of reading. I just want to point out, remember I talked about, in terms of combination, the most restricted rule applies. Most restricted rule applies. When you have different fares together, the most restricted rule for everyone applies. For example, in terms of minimum stay, okay? This one is only 1 itinerary, right? 1 itinerary. So when it's 1 itinerary, how many minimum stay or maximum stay you have? You only have 1, right? But there are 3 rules. So which one do I follow? This one says minimum stay nothing. This one said minimum 7 days. This one minimum 3 days. So which one do I follow? The most restrictive one, right? So which one is the most restrictive one? The longest minimum stay, which is what? 7 days, right? 7 days. So that's what we're talking about. And maximum stay, the same thing. Give you one example. Maximum stay, A to B, 1 year. B to C, 6 months. C to A, 3 months, right? That's 3 different fares, 3 different rules. And for the whole itinerary, which one applies for the maximum stay? 3 months, the most restrictive one. So which means, like what I said, the shorter the cheaper, right? The shorter the most restrictive. 3 months, okay? So that's what they're talking about. And advanced reservation ticketing, same thing. This fare needs 1 day. This fare, 3 days. This fare, 14 days. So how many days before departure you need to make a reservation? Which one is the most restrictive one? 1 day, 3 day, 14 day? 14 day, okay? So that's what we're talking about in terms of combination, okay? And the change penalty, the same thing. This one, no cancellation fee. This one, 100. This one's 300. How much do we charge? We don't charge 400. We don't add them together. We charge the most restricted one. So how much is that? 300. Make sense? Okay? And penalties. So penalties, we are talking about what? How many penalties do we have, Jeremy? When we talk about penalties, how many kinds of penalties we have? 2, yeah, the 2. Which 2? Not those 2. Put your cell phone down, please. Okay? When we talk about penalty, we're talking about the change penalty and what penalty? Cancellation penalty. Those are the 2, okay? So when there's change penalty, cancellation penalty, the rule will specifically tell you. And number 1 tells about children and infant discount. Adult, we pay 300, right? In terms of children cancellation, they only pay 75% of 300. They don't pay the whole thing. And involuntary routing. This one, I'm sure Jamie or Karen has talked about. What is involuntary rerouting? When we talk about involuntary, what are we talking about?
Something that's not your fault.
That's right. When it's not your fault, whose fault? Airlines. So give me one example. Involuntary rerouting.
They cancel the flights.
Yeah.
Cancel the course.
That's right. They cancel the flight. You have to change another flight, right? Or it's that your Ottawa to Vancouver flight is canceled. You have to do Ottawa, Toronto, Toronto to Vancouver, right? Or today's flight is canceled. I have to move to next day. Anything not you make the change is involuntary. When it's involuntary, do you have to pay any penalty? No. You know what? I absolutely love involuntary rerouting most of the time because you have lots of right. I'll tell you one right, okay? Many people don't know. Most of the airlines, if your flight is canceled, you are allowed to change your flight to several days before your original departure date and several days after your departure date. So your window is pretty big, okay? So you are flexible. And also, by that time, doesn't really matter class of service anymore. You pay the lowest one, but if you want to travel next day, they only have a highest economy, not your problem. You say, I want to travel on that date. So they will automatically change it to the upper class of service without any surcharge. Make sense? So that's your right. Okay? And do you have the right to cancel? If you say, I absolutely need to travel on that date, on that time, you change any date, doesn't work for me. Can you say, I want a refund? Are you allowed? When it's involuntary, absolutely. You can say, I want to refund, full refund, no penalty. But trust me, most of the time you don't want to. Because most of fares you book way early, it's quite low. And if you decide to travel, make the booking with another airline, the fare has already gone up. You don't want to do that, most of the time, okay? And next one, oh my lord, this one. Cancellation and refund, I've already basically covered, okay? So prior to departure, full refund will apply in the event of what? A death. If somebody died, there's no cancellation penalty anymore. That would be not humane, okay? Somebody died and say, okay, pay $300, I'll pay you back. No, no, by that time it's a free refund, no more cancellation penalty. But other than that, when you decide to cancel, there's cancellation penalty before departure, right? After departure, what does it mean after departure is that you travel like this, out of Chicago, Tokyo. Now you're already in Tokyo and you love Tokyo. You have a boyfriend or girlfriend there, you decide not to come back. And then what you need to do? You need to cancel the flight, right? So most of people will say, oh, I canceled the flight. I want my money back. I want half of what I paid back. Do you think you will get half of your paid back?
No.
There's no way. Unless you pay very high economy class or business class. You travel the half, you get the other half back. But most of the lower fare, you travel the half, you are thinking, I want to get the other half back. Not a chance. What's going to happen? Partial refund in the event of passenger or whatever break the trip. Difference between the fare paid and the fare for the transportation used less the forfeit amount stated in the individual rule. So I'll tell you the general practice, okay? General practice. The airlines are not stupid. I'll tell you how do they work, okay? Some people say, okay, I paid $1,600. Okay? $1,600, okay? Then they say, okay, I'm in Tokyo, I love Tokyo, I got a girlfriend there, boyfriend there, so I'm not coming back. So I called American Airlines, I say, I want 800 back. Do you think you'll get 800 back? No way, gonna 800 back. I'll tell you most of the airlines, how do they work, okay? This is how do they work. You paid $1,600, right? Yes, okay. You only use half. Yes, you deserve this back. Yes, you deserve. This is how I calculate. You paid $1,600 2 months ago, right? The airlines will do this calculation. They will say, 2 months ago, how much does it cost one way from Ottawa to Chicago? Ottawa to Narita. That's where you use, right? So they will do a calculation and say how much is one-way cost. We all know international one-way trip is very expensive, right? Because higher class of service. Then they say, okay, I did the calculation, it's $4,500. Then they will say, okay, so what I'm gonna do is that I use $1,600 minus $5,500. You actually owe us money. When you cancel, you're not going to get any money back. Because what? Your one-way ticket at that point costs more than round trip you paid. So, are they going to collect more money from you? They won't. But do you dream to get any money back from them? Most of the time, no. Because they are not just doing simple half and half. They are doing recalculation, how much cost for one way. And if by that time you're lucky, the one way only costs $1,400, then you'll have a chance to get some money back. Very minimal. Most of the time, trust me, you aren't gonna get any money back. Okay? Makes sense? So even if, just in case, you do get some money back, and the credit towards the future travel, they don't give you money, full refund. Okay? Okay, so this one is schedule change. So this one, I'm not going to go in detail. It's talking about in terms of schedule change, what's going to happen? What can you do for schedule change? Okay. So affected passenger departure by 2 or more hours additional intermediate stop. So this one, schedule change, is a voluntary or involuntary? Schedule change. Involuntary. Schedule change is from the airlines, right? When it's involuntary, what's going to happen? You have all the right I talked about before. Okay? These are just scenarios. And children and infant fare. Okay? Children and infant fare is different with domestic. Domestic, there is no children fare. Pay exactly the same with adult. But international, children, when we talk about children, what are the age range?
3 to 11.
How old?
3 to 11.
3, no. 2 to 11. 2 to 11, right? 2 to 11, you pay 75% because you occupy a seat. You're lucky you get discount. But infant is not free. Domestic transporter, infant is free. International, how much do you pay? You don't occupy a seat, you still pay 10%. Okay, 10%. And now let's do a couple of case studies. Remember, all this case study is talking about how to save money. Remember, I showed you how to save money. Before I do case study, how do you save money for your client? 2 ways. Number one, by changing the what? The date. Yeah, changing the date. There are two, yeah, you can change date. Changing from seasonality. That's one way to change, to get lower fares, change seasonality, right? That will save big money. And the other one, save little money, is by changing what? Weekday, weekend. So keep that in mind, then you will get the correct answer, okay? So now let's look at this itinerary. So this itinerary is Ottawa to Montreal, Montreal to Paris, Paris, Toronto, Toronto to Ottawa. So looking at this, I can write this. By the way, do you guys know how to write this? I showed you this, you learned how to write this, right? Because in the test, you will be asked to write this, okay? Make sure X means what? Connection. O means stopover. Slash dash means what? Arrow. Okay, good. So here are the travel dates, and they say, how do you save money if the travel dates are flexible? Remember, keep in mind, always, in order to save money, 2 ways. Change seasonality and change weekday, weekend, okay? So now, in order to save money, first of all, we need to know how much does it cost, right? So I'm going to show you. How do I show you? You know what? I'm going to write the date. Can I erase this? Yeah. Today we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to quick. Ottawa, Montreal, Paris, Toronto, and Ottawa. Stopover connection. What's the date? 20th. June 20, and this is July 18. Okay, so that's good. There's no stopover, easy. I'm going to show you $D, and you tell me how to save money, okay? Which airline? I forgot. Let's do Air Canada.
Air France.
Is that Air France? Did I say that?
Yeah.
Okay, I did say Air France. Oh, I didn't connect it. $D, Ottawa to okay. So here is what I some students say your outbound and inbound are different. Your outbound connecting in Montreal, your inbound connecting in Toronto. But when you do $D, it doesn't say anything about it. Does it make a difference? In terms of fare, does it make a difference where I make connection? It does not. Okay? When it's connection or stop or whatever, it only counts where do you start, where do you end. Where do you make connection? Whatever you want. Okay? As long as in the legal connection. Okay. So Just look at this. Just look at this. Give me some idea. How do I save money? By looking at this. Because you're professional, right? You have $D. You can see $D. Your clients can't. Your clients only know that's what they want. But they don't know how to save money. Your job is to show them how to save money. Look at this. How do you save money? Remember 2 ways to save money. Huh? Okay. How do you save money? 2 ways. Okay, I will use number 1 as example so you know how to start, okay? So remember I said there's 2 ways. Number 1, this is garbage. Number 1 is by change season. Number 2 is the X or W, okay? So in order to change season, first one we need to look which date counts a season. The seasonality is determined by what? Does it count by inbound? No, right? What decides seasonality? Which date? Outbound transoceanic date, right? So what's this date? June 20th, okay? June 20th, okay? So June 20th, so let's see, how do we save money? In order to do that, we need to look at the seasonality. Okay, look at the seasonality. It's June 19th to September 10th. This is perfect because your client's travel date is very close to the borders, both sides of the seasonality. So if your clients are flexible, they can save money. But first of all, we need to look, are they going to save money or not? So when you look at this one, it's 820, right? How do we see whether they can save money or not? We need to do a what? Another $D and see another date whether they save money. So what we do is, how about we change it to which date? June 18th, right? Can I change to June 19th? No, June 19th doesn't work. June 19th is the same seasonality. I need to change to June 18th. So let's see June 18th. Remember now June 20 is 820, right? How much is now? How much? 194. Just by changing how many days? 2 days. How much does your client save? Remember, used to be 820. Now they changed to how much? 194. How much dollar change? It's like 600 something, right? $626 you save just by changing 2 dates. Does your client know that? They don't know, but you know how to save them money. So now I basically change which date? Change this one to what? June what? 18th. June 18th. Okay? So that's one way. That's change seasonality. Now the other way we'll have to change is by changing what? Weekday, weekend. So now let's go back. What's our original date? June 20 and July 18. So which date decides the weekday, weekend? Same thing, huh? Both outbound and inbound. Transoceanic. So these 2 days, right? So June 20 and July 18. So now let's check your calendar and see which date. We've already changed to June 18th, right? So which day is June 18th? Let's have a look. Which day?
Thursday.
Thursday, okay. So June 18th is Thursday. How about July 18th?
Saturday.
Saturday, okay, good. So this is our dates, right? So now, in order to save your client money, we need to figure out which day is weekday and which day is weekend. How do we find out? How do we find out? We need to go to where? $V number 1. We need to go to the rule, right? Which is weekday, weekend? Number 2. $V/2, right? Daytime. So let's see. This one is midweek. Midweek is a weekday. So they are talking weekend about what? Sunday to Thursday. So Sunday to Thursday, we are traveling on Thursday outbound. Can we save money? Can we save more? We can't. It's already midweek, right? But inbound, it's Saturday, right? Can we save money? Save money, right? How do we save money? We can change to what date? What date do we change to? Huh? July. So 18 is Saturday. 17 is Friday. Weekday or weekend? Weekend. 16 is Thursday. Weekday, weekend? Weekday. So July what? 16. Okay? Or can we change to July 19th? Does July 19th work? Why not?
Oh, yes.
July 19th works too. July 18th is Saturday. July 19th is which day? Sunday. Sunday is weekday, weekend. Weekend too. So either way, right? Either way. So now let's see how much it is. Now we're changing money, changing the date. So 18, so this one we change to 19th, right? How much is it? 194. 194, okay? So this will be cheapest you can get. Make sense? Does it make sense? Changing the dates, okay? So changing the season and change the date. Save big money, this one. What? Question?
Did it make a difference changing the weekday?
It did. I'll tell you why, okay? Guys, you see here? This is 18 and 19, right? It's 194, right? Go back. I will show you, huh? 18 and 18, right? How much is that? Still 194? No. 194 is only outbound. Inbound is how much? 254. So you have to do half and half. So it is more expensive. But when you change the date, now it's all both weekday, so it's at 194. Right? Make sense? So this is how you do it. Understand? Now the case study number 2. Okay, so case study number 2, this one I'm gonna let you to do it because I did show you how to do this. Okay, so I'm gonna do this for you. The second one, you can try. Okay, this is one, Ottawa, Montreal, CBD, Toronto. Okay, so. Did you write down? Yes? Okay, first of all, in order to do that, guys, you need to look at the calendar, which day it is, right? So make sure you write down December 5th. Yes.
Should it be December 8th instead of December 9th?
Oh, that's right. Sorry. December 8th. Can anybody tell me the date, which day it is? December 8th?
This year or next year?
This year. Which day? Monday?
Yeah.
Monday. This is Monday. This is
Friday,
Friday. This, I believe, is Friday. No,
Sunday.
Sunday. Now, did you write this down? So now I'm gonna show you the dollar. How do you save money? So first of all, before we do this, first of all, I'm gonna ask you a question. First of all, so we know the seasonality. So first of all, looking at this, which date decides seasonality? Montreal to
Paris.
Paris, because that's transatlantic, right? So that one decides seasonality, not this one. So December 15th. Which one decides weekday and weekend? Which one? Same thing. Outbound and inbound. So these are weekday, weekend, right? So by changing this, we can save money. So now, how do we change it? Okay. Does it matter changing this date, December 8th? Doesn't matter, only this, right? So December 15th, look at this one. Our December 15th, and the season is what? October 16th to December 10th. So how do I save money? By changing the date, right? So what do you think? Should I change December what? December 11th? Oh, no. How come they gave me December 10th? Guys, why they give me December 10th? The season. Look at the date I entered. Which date did I enter? 8th. Is that correct? Which date should I enter? 15th, because that's the date decides seasonality, right? So I change this one to, even though it's not a real travel date. Okay, so this is a real travel date, right? So now, how do I save money? December 15th? Change it to December what? 10th. Because starting from December 11th, that's a new season. Now we change to December 10th, right? So December 10th, let's see how much does it cost. Remember this one, we write it down. This one costs 900, right? Let's see December 10th. How much December 10th cost? 238. Outbound. Right? Outbound. So outbound, right? Inbound is a little bit more. 298. Okay? Okay? So that's saving money, right? And another way to save money is what? December 15th is a Monday. What day is December 10th? Look at your calendar. Oh, it says right there, right? It's a Wednesday. Wednesday is weekday or weekend? it's already weekday, so can we say more? Probably not, right? But now, inbound, can we change the date to say on the season? Season only decides by what? By outbound. So inbound, don't say money on season. But does it say on weekday, weekend? Yes, right? Used to be Friday, so now which day can we say money? We have to check, right? Because we have to check $V number 1. $V/2. So look at this. The midweek is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday. So your date is Friday. So which day can you say money? Thursday. So you just changed to what? December 18th. So now I'm going to show you how much you really pay. Big difference. So now December 10th, December 18th. How much you really pay now? $238. That's it. No more. Do you see O and I? No, which means just $238. All midweek fare. Does it make sense? This is just examples. How do you think for your client how to save money? In campus travel, that's what you need to do. Your clients give you the date, but you say, why don't you say, oh, by doing this, I can save you money. How? By doing this. Understand? Okay, so that's all we talk about. Now let's take a 10 minutes break. Let's go quick, right? Because we have lots of things to cover.